Today we're unboxing a brand new iPhone 11 that's been sealed in its box for over 5 years. I picked this one up on eBay for under $200 and it is in the product red color. So let's go ahead and get it opened up. And here we have our iPhone 11 with its original sealed box. So this is the thicker style iPhone packaging where Apple was still including accessories like headphones. Apple switched to that thinner style iPhone box that only included the phone and the charging cable in late 2020. So with that being said, this is definitely an earlier model iPhone 11 that should be running its original software version, iOS 13. Looking around the box here, we do get some product red touches with the iPhone text as well as the Apple logo. And here on the back, we can see that this is a 64GB model. Let's use this pull tab now to break the plastic seal. And with that, the rest of the packaging just pulls straight upward. And now we can lift the lid on this box. And there we go, we are met with the iPhone 11 on its back panel. And this product red color is looking absolutely incredible. So let's use the pull tab to lift the device up. And now we can get a better look at the device. Let's remove the plastic film from this display. And there we go, I always have to say it, but that is one of the most satisfying sounds ever. Let's get this iPhone connected to power and see if it will accept a charge. And we do get the charging screen, so that is a great sign. I'll put the iPhone to the side now and take a look at the accessories. And first off with these, we do get a literature packet. And this does include a unique card for the product red model. So this just explains that with the Product Red partnership, Apple will contribute a portion from the iPhone's purchase to the Global Fund for HIV and AIDS. Aside from that, we get a quick start guide as well as a SIM ejection tool, some regulatory info, and 2 Apple stickers. And now for the accessories that are included with the iPhone 11. We first have this small 5-watt USB-A power adapter. This was unlike the iPhone 11 Pro and Pro Max models that included a USB-C fast charging power adapter. But the iPhone 11 lineup as well as the second generation iPhone SE were the last to include any power adapter at all. Those models were also the last to include headphones in the box. So we have this set of wired earpods here with a lightning connector as well as a remote and mic. And lastly, we do have the USB-A to lightning cable here. It's always so nostalgic for me to take a look back on iPhones that came with a really nice set of accessories like this. Okay, and I now have the iPhone 11 here fully charged up. I had this connected to a 20-watt adapter and it powered on after only a couple of minutes. It was fully charged and ready to go within around 3 hours. And I did use an IMEI number check service to find out some more information about the device. So first off, this has never been activated before. This specific unit here was produced around January 2020 and purchased around March of that year. So now let's go through this setup process on our iPhone 11. And okay, it looks like we've got through activation. We also get some instructions here during the setup for the gesture-based UI. And that was really still necessary as most users were upgrading from an older iPhone that still had a physical home button. And here we go, we are met with the iOS 13 home screen. And the big giveaway that this is iOS 13 is just the default wallpaper here, as well as the white music icon, as Apple reverted back to the red music icon with the following version, iOS 14. Let's go into settings so we can find out which version of iOS 13 we have. And okay, it looks like we have 13.3 here. So definitely a later version of iOS 13 in line with the early 2020 production date. Also, while I'm here in settings, I want to check out the battery health. So I'm expecting the battery health to be 100%, and yes, we do have 100% as our maximum capacity here. I've definitely gotten really lucky with that, as every battery on a sealed device I've unboxed has performed just as if it was a brand new one, Which of course this is a brand new battery, but the fact that it has sat unused for over 5 years and is able to be charged up like normal is really impressive. Also, while I'm here in settings, I want to check out the default wallpapers for this iPhone 11 on iOS 13. And we do have some exclusive live options for this model. So we have 6 options here, one for each color that this device launched in. This first one here was for the white model. This one was for the black model. This was for the yellow model. This was for the purple, the green, and lastly, the product red to match my unit. I'm not really sure what these wallpapers are supposed to depict, and admittedly they are not my favorite live wallpapers Apple has made, but I still think these are really cool to look at and play with. Each one of these also features a dark mode variant, since dark mode was new for iOS 13. So activating that here, we can take a look at the variants. The white, black, yellow, purple, green, and product red. And for the remainder of this video, I will definitely be using the dark mode of the product red live wallpaper here. So now let's talk about what the iPhone 11 was. This model was released in September 2019 alongside the 11 Pro and 11 Pro Max. You could get this model in those 6 colors I mentioned with either 64, 128, or 256 gigabytes of storage. And one of the really neat things about these 2019 iPhones is that they set into place the modern naming strategy for iPhones that Apple still uses today, with the standard numbered model here as well as the up-level Pro model. So just 1 year before this, in 2018, we saw the iPhone XR as well as the XS and XS Max. So that naming was a bit confusing. The 11 and 11 Pro made much more sense. But all 3 of these 2019 iPhone models did share a design with the previous 2018s. So the iPhone 11 shared a very similar design to the iPhone XR. The camera was the biggest visual difference between these, as well as the new colors. You had an all-glass front and back design with an aluminum band. The rear glass was shiny on the 11 while it was matte frosted on the 11 Pro. The display on the iPhone 11 was a 6.1-inch LCD panel. So this was not the higher-end organic LED like you would find on the Pro models. And in general, the display on this model was a bit of a low point. It only had a resolution of 1792 by 828, so it could not natively display 1080p content. And it only had a pixel density of 326 pixels per inch. The Pro models were offering over 450 pixels per inch. So not only did this display lack the nice true black levels of the OLED panel, it was also suffering in the resolution. Apple would bring that OLED panel to the base model iPhone 12 just 1 year later. But another point about the display on the iPhone 11 is that this lineup was known for removing the 3D Touch feature altogether. 3D Touch was a pressure-sensitive layer in the display that Apple introduced back in 2015 with the iPhone 6s. It first started getting phased out with the iPhone XR in 2018. It did remain on the up-level iPhone XS and XS Max. But with the release of this iPhone 11, the up-level Pro models no longer had that feature. It was replaced with haptic touch, which was just a software-based long press. It did retain most of the functionality that 3D Touch had, it was just less intuitive to use. But although the display was a little bit behind on the iPhone 11, it had a really competitive price. This was one of the few, if not only, iPhones to see a year-over-year price decrease. So in 2018, the iPhone XR started at $749, but just 1 year later, this iPhone 11 started at $699. So that was a really attractive price point for everything you got with this device. The cameras on the entire iPhone 11 lineup got a really huge upgrade. The base 11 here now had 2 camera lenses, which was previously exclusive to the much more expensive models, while the 11 Pro received the triple camera setup. The 11 had a wide and ultra-wide sensor, both of which were 12 megapixels. And those made for some really cool features, especially the ultra-wide lens. I remember being super impressed with this ultra-wide camera back in 2019, and it was really cool that Apple brought it to the standard model instead of keeping it exclusive to the Pro. Something else new for the camera on the 11s was the addition of a night mode. So by covering the lens here, you can see that I gained some extra controls. And this really helped brighten up your photos taken at night. The front-facing camera also got a really important upgrade for the iPhone 11. It could now record in 4K and it was a 12 megapixel sensor. That was up from 7 megapixels on the XR, which could only record in 1080p with that front camera. This iPhone was powered by the A13 Bionic chip, clocked at around 2.66 gigahertz. So this was a 6-core processor, and Apple really focused on making it especially power efficient. It was quoted to be 14% faster in single-core performance and 26% faster in multi-core performance. And that was compared to the A12 Bionic in the iPhone XR. It was also now paired to 4 gigabytes of RAM instead of the 3 that the XR had. And that extra 1 gigabyte of memory really made a noticeable improvement for performance. This iPhone 11 is still supported with software releases in 2025, and it will be receiving the iOS 26 update this fall. Something that the iPhone 11 lineup is famous for is improving the battery life. Most of that reputation only applies to the Pro models, however. Those had 4 to 5 hours longer battery life compared to their predecessors, while the standard iPhone 11 here only had 1 hour longer battery life compared to the XR. This iPhone 11 was actually sold new by Apple all the way through late 2022 with the release of the iPhone 14, and it saw price cuts all the way down to $499. And now let's take a second to talk about iOS 13 on this device specifically. So as I mentioned, this was the first version of iOS to feature a native dark mode. Users have been pretty much begging Apple to implement that feature for years, so it was really cool to finally have it. And this was the first version where your volume indicator would appear on the left of your screen. Previously, it would come up in the center of your screen and block your content, so this view was much more convenient. And Siri featured a revised voice on this version, so let's try that out now. What version of iOS do I have?
You're running iOS version 13.3.
So there you can hear that. iOS 13 was also the first version to feature QuickType. And with that, you could just swipe your finger over the keys to type out words. And the Apple Music app on iOS 13 was the first to feature real-time song lyrics. Here in 2025, unfortunately, there isn't a ton of app support for iOS 13. So most apps like YouTube and social media will no longer load content on this outdated version. But you can still use most of Apple's system services. I know for sure that the Apple Music feature still works, and the App Store also works. I was able to download a really nice selection of apps. So most of these are just some nostalgic games that I like to play on these older iPhones. And now let's take a look at the other two categories of wallpapers here on iOS 13. So first we have these dynamic wallpapers. So there's 14 choices here, 7 with a black background and 7 with a colored background. And these all feature dots that will move according to the tilt of your device. You also have a nice selection of stills. So these first 4 here were new for iOS 13, and the rest were carryovers from iOS 11 and 12. And the 4 options that were new for iOS 13 did feature a dark and light mode variant. I think the dark mode of this first option here, which was the default for all devices running iOS 13, looks especially nice with the product red model. So with the past few iPhones I've unboxed, I've gotten quite a few questions regarding the warranty on them. And unfortunately, the warranty on these does start on the purchase date rather than the activation date. So since this was purchased in March 2020, the limited warranty did expire in 2021. I really think that this iPhone 11 was a standout in Apple's history just for the really great value that it offered. I think it's important to mention that back in 2019 when this released, most iPhone users had older models with home buttons and Touch ID. So having the option to get this iPhone 11 here with the modern no home button design and Face ID at the price of $699 was really appealing. And I'm really happy to have this product red model here in 2025 as Apple no longer produces these. Be sure to leave me a comment below with your thoughts on this iPhone 11. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.